welcome everyone to the June 17th, 2019 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. And I would like to have Director Rob Leeds, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rob. I'm Barb Lewis, President. To my left is our Vice President, Jeff Benton. To my right, fellow Commissioner Gary Merrill, our Administrator, Mike Fromer, and our Clerk, Jennifer Walraven. We can begin.
Resolution number 19-570, in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held June 13th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion vote.
Vote on motion 19-570. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We do not have any public comment today, so that brings us to Rob Leeds, the Director of Agricultural and Relations at OSU Extension.
Thank you, and I brought a team with me today because I wanted you guys all to hear from different parts of the county and different areas. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in agriculture right now. You know, we're getting a lot of stuff on the news, and we're going to talk a little bit about the weather, and we'll all come back to the weather, but delayed planting, but we have a lot of different sectors. So I'd like to bring Brian Skinner, won't you come up? And then I'd also like to introduce Shay Leeper. She's our summer intern. They farm over in Union County, and Jackie Smith from northern Delaware County. And then you guys all know Steve Burke, the Director or OD of Farm Bureau.
Great.
So, but anyway, just wanted to kind of update you on what's going on. I'll start off. When we talk here, you know, we always talk about delayed planting. And I hate to say this, and Brian, you can feel free to disagree with me, but I think we're pretty much done for this year. We're getting real close. You know, with
Done in a good way, the planning is in.
No. And the weather is going to be the way it looks for the next 2 weeks. We got rain on the forecast every day this week until Friday. And then we have break over the weekend. Then we have rain coming in again Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So no, unfortunately, Gary, not in a good way. And you know, we've been trying to muddle things through, and we'll talk a little bit about delayed planting. Like I say, that may be prevented planting by the time we get done here this next couple of weeks. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the other sectors too we don't talk a lot about, and that's about the hay crop that's coming in, the livestock sectors, and some different things like that. So anyway, I'll just start off by talking a little bit about Delaware County as far as just a general overview. You know, right now, last week they were looking at statewide 50% of the corn being planted and 32% of the beans. Now, we had some opportunity last week to plant some, so I'm going to report this week in Delaware County going about 80% of our corn being in and about 65% of our beans being in. But if you look at that, last year we harvested 38,000 acres of corn and 73,000 acres of beans here, excuse me, that's 2017, in Delaware County. So if you just look at that and say our numbers are close, we're looking at about 8,000 idle acres of corn and about 29,500 of beans. So that's substantial when you talk about Delaware County, where about 170,000 acres are in agriculture and row crop production. And like I said, that number really doesn't capture the hay crop. We have a lot of guys out there that have hay out, and we've really already lost 2 cuttings. So that's going to be good and bad. The quality is going to drop quite a bit. Prices obviously will go up, but how much quantity are they going to have? That's a big question.
What percentage of corn did you say has been planted?
I'm thinking we're about 80%, and it varies by the county. When I go west, you know, I see a lot more planted. When I go east, I see a lot more, as long as we say south. When we go north, especially up by Jackie's, Ashley area, I see a lot less planted up there too. Talking to you know, Dawn's family farms up in that same area. and it's really been tough. And Dawn, you can probably comment to this too, is how much of that stuff went in, where I say it's planted, but it went in so poorly that the stands aren't there, or, you know, we have some issues like that. So yields, I think, is going to be pretty variable. But anyway, that's just kind of a general overview. But Brian, you want to come up and say a few words about his operation out there? He's one of the lucky ones. He did get it done.
Brian Skinner, but yeah, we did the first round. We also have replanted, I think, a little over 500 acres, which is not totally uncommon, but that's getting up there pretty good. Usually have to patch up a little bit of acres, and you folks all watch the news. This isn't just Delaware, Ohio, it's a Midwest problem there, and of course the markets are starting to show it as well. So on the county side, which you guys are already very proactive for, I see Scott's here and Bonnie, but we really need these guys over here with our Delaware Soil and Water and working on drainage ditch maintenance, agriculture, as well as residential. It's extremely important. I don't think it's an overstatement. It's like your body, you know, you can have your arteries all working great, but you have one spot that's plugged up and it shuts everything else down. So we'll take all the help we can get there. Mother Nature's going to do what it's going to do, but that would be beneficial to make sure the funds are there, that we can keep these drainage ditches open north and south of the county too, so.
Okay.
I know there's others here to speak, so.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Jackie's one of the unlucky ones. They were really struggling up there.
Yeah, so we farm up by Ashley, a little bit into Morrow County as well, and we've got 35% of our corn acres and 20% of our bean acres in. So, you know, we're very, you know, I guess barely halfway. So it's and like Rob said, you know, they're planted, but, you know, it's not pretty to begin with. And right now they're underwater because we got 4 inches over the weekend. And like you said, it's forecasted to rain for the next 7 days again. So, you know, that definitely puts a damper on things. And then I personally raise sheep and cattle. So we're down, like you said, we're down 2 hay cuttings, and we actually donated, sillily, we donated 45 bales of round bales of hay out to Nebraska when they were having their flood issues. So we're currently short on hay again due to our lovely donations. But we're just trying to make sure those cows get through and until we can get some hay made. We've got 40 acres of beautiful alfalfa that's just there that we can't get into. So, you know, my family was joking, you know, we're gonna have to go back to the old way. We can just cut it, throw it on the wagon, and then take the wagon out to the field. But it's really hard. And then we also have producers in the county that are very, very dependent upon their corn crop to feed their livestock. So a great example would be Doug Dawson over there on Bowtown Road. You know, if he doesn't have the corn to feed sows, then it's, you know, he's getting hit twice, right? He's getting hit that he doesn't have the corn to sell, but he also doesn't have the corn to feed those sows. And if he has to buy grain, it's going to be very expensive. A lot of our livestock farmers that I know of, and a lot of my sheep producer friends across the entire nation and state and nation are buying as much corn as they can right now because we know that price is going to skyrocket, and we're trying to store it as much as we can. So it's very hard. It's very difficult to sit in the house and just watch it rain all day, knowing that there's so much out there that is not planted and not going to be able to bring an income into us.
How many dry days do you need to get into the fields for the cutting?
For the hay? So right now we would need probably at least 4 days of it to dry, and then to make dry hay you need 3 consecutive dry days. So you need to cut it, it needs to dry, and then you would bale it on that 3rd day. So right now we would need at least a week or more to get a good cutting of hay. And like you said, hay prices are extremely expensive. 2 weeks ago over in LaRue, some hay sold at an auction for $65 a bale. I would say average normal year price would be between 5 and 10. So it sold for $65 a bale because hay shortage is so vast. So it's becoming very expensive to work in agriculture with the rain.
And we're a big horse county, so obviously horse hay is going to be a premium.
Yes, and that was horse hay.
And Jackie, you are also with OSU Extension?
Yes, yes.
Could you give us your exact title, too?
Yes, yeah. So I'm Jackie Smith, and I am the Extension Educator for Ag and Natural Resources and 4-H.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Just real quick, I want to introduce you to Shay. Shay, just say a few words about your operation. She's actually in Union County, right on the
Yeah.
border there between Delaware and Union.
So hello, my name is Shay Leeper, and as Rob said, we do farm over in Union County, corn and soybeans mainly. And this year it has also been hard for us. We have about a third of our corn in and 2/3 of our beans in over there. And, you know, it's just been really difficult to get in the fields because it has been so wet. And when we can get in, we normally get rained out. Dad has had to spot plant some, but even so, the crops that we do have in the ground, we don't know how well they're going to do just, you know, as the year goes on. Is it going to keep raining? Are we going to have a better year? We don't know how growing season's going to go. But also, like, this year, we're going to end up paying for this for years to come because it's going to affect the soil. There's going to be a lot of erosion, compaction, and so it's going to make it difficult, not only this year, but in the future. So, you know, it's very widespread, not just here in central Ohio, but across the states.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Shay.
Boy, thank you.
She's a junior there at Ohio State, so, but.
Great, and an
so,
intern.
Anyway, that's kind of nutshell, and Shay brought up a couple of good points. The first one is the idea of, you know, we've spent years getting this soil into shape, and now in this 1 year, we're really taking a pounding. A lot of it, as Scott knows, is the flooding and the erosion happens with it. But it also, a lot of our rains have been really hard, and we're seeing a lot of compaction that we hadn't seen before. Even when it dried out a little bit, we were out there planting and working with some farmers on test plots, and it was incredible how hard that soil was when it started to dry out. So I don't know what's happening, but I can't remember a year like this. Scott, maybe you remember one? I don't. It's been a long time. Just want to touch on, and Steve, you can help me a little bit with this, on the economics of it. You know, most farmers do have some type of crop insurance. Some don't. It looks like Governor DeWine is going to try to get Ohio declared a disaster area, so there'll be some relief financially for those farmers. Keep in mind that insurance, just like anything else, you're just basically covering your cost of production. So those guys will be better off, but as far as money for living experience and stuff, they're not going to have it. And the other thing I want to touch on too is I really feel for a lot of our support industries. Ohio Grow, you know, they got seed, they got chemical, they got fertilizer that didn't get put on. It's sitting in their warehouse still. And there's not a lot of discussion at the state level or federal level about relief for those types of operations. And it's all weather related. We'd use it in a normal year. So, you know, keep those guys in mind too. Harsh is the same way up there. So we have some different things. So anyway, that's just kind of it in a nutshell. You know, environmentally, we're trying to do the best we can with it. And a lot of farmers really did hold off because they didn't want to rut things up. And then the other part is the financial area that will really take a hit in the county and the state and really national. And as a couple people mentioned, Brian especially, Delaware County, we're probably better off than most, even though we're really hurting. You go west and you go Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, and it's not good at all.
That's what I wondered, too.
Yeah, you know, they're worse than us, and so we have to recognize
Are there
that.
some states that came out better than others, like Nebraska's or?
Yeah, I mean, there are some, I wouldn't say states, but areas. In Ohio, if you go east, Coshocton, Trumbull County, they actually got things planted in on time. Now they're starting to get some water now that'll deteriorate their crops, but, you know, planting, they did okay. But if you go west, Darke County, Indiana, up towards the Fort Wayne area, it's really not good. I went up and helped with an educational event this weekend in Fulton County, and there's nothing hardly planted up there at all. So, but anyway, so we'll see those type of stories out there. But you're right, when you go to Nebraska, you get a little bit west of Illinois, then it does get better. Iowa's been hit pretty good, but Missouri's been hit really hard. I don't know what you're hearing from around home, Gary, out there.
A lot of rain.
A lot of rain, yeah. So there's some, you know, Wisconsin's really been hit too. So it'll be interesting to see how it all fleshes out from a federal and state level and see what they do as far as that. So, any questions? We got.
Steve?
Oh, Steve, you
Yeah,
want to?
yeah, why don't you step forward and then we'll have some questions.
Good morning. My name is Steve Burke. I'm the organization director for Franklin, Union, Delaware, and Madison counties for Ohio Farm Bureau. Delaware is my favorite, but don't tell the other commissioners in the other counties that if you cross over with them. Yes, so I really just kind of want to reiterate, it summed up very well everyone that spoke before me, just some of the things that we're seeing from the state level and certainly from a state and federal perspective, just kind of going into a downturn in the ag economy as it was anyhow. We were already looking at depressed commodity prices. As a lot of people are aware, agricultural products are a commodity, and commodities are subject to a lot of market volatility, the same way as a bushel of corn or a barrel of petroleum has a lot of market fluctuations. So with going into this downturn in the economy, and then to have this kind of coupled on with that, kind of creates a perfect storm, no pun intended, since we've had a bunch of them, and just that we're having a tough time getting, if you think of a farmer trying to think of his baseline, saying, well, if the commodity market's going to be down, the only offset for that is obviously to have maybe a better outstanding yield or be able to create more on-farm revenue. But obviously with the weather hurting this way, not being able to make up for it with livestock, hay, or any of your corn and soybeans is just another way, if you're looking at your end line numbers, on some ways that they think they would be really hurting. And then just to circle back around real quick, we always talk about great importance of having great relationships with soil and water conservation districts, with county engineers, ditch maintenance this time of year. It always is always the most omnipresent right now, in the sense that you see the rivers up, you see small little creeks now all of a sudden, busting through their banks. And so we just always talk about the importance of that and just how it really plays in. And situations like this, I think we're in a much better shape in a great county like Delaware, where we have a lot of great ditch maintenance and we are able to do a lot of things, as opposed to other parts of the state that maybe don't have access to that for a lot of different reasons. And then all of a sudden those farmers are really seeing that back up right into their field, as that kind of creates that pond. I know a couple different places just throughout the state that I've seen, and everyone's probably seen it, where all of a sudden there's a lake kind of out there in the middle of the field, and so that's tough. So with that, I just want to thank everyone else for what they said, and I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Commissioners?
Yeah, I had several questions. You've touched on a number of the topics I had about this. One of them is insurance. You said some do, some don't. Is it, the majority? Is it 80, 90% that do?
Right, yeah, most do. I mean, you're probably 85%, 90% do. Okay. And most of the ones that don't are may have an opportunity to, if we declare it a disaster area, to jump back in. So there's some opportunities there. But typical year in and year out, that's what we're looking at. So, and it's just like most insurance. You don't use it, you don't use it, and then this is a very abnormal year. Maybe 95 would be the only thing even closely comparable, and it wasn't even that.
Yeah, that was another question I had, is this the worst in terms of rain that you've ever seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ohio, this is the wettest 12 months on record ever.
That's what I thought.
Ever.
That's what I'd
Yeah.
read.
So June 18 through May of 19 is the wettest 12-month period that since records began, which is 124 years for weather-wise. So it's very, very wet. So not only did we have a hard time getting everything harvested in the fall, now we can't get stuff planted this spring. So, I mean, I know there's multiple fields in Delaware County of corn that got disked under because they could never even get out there to harvest it. And now they can't even get out there to plant it. So I'm sure there's some hardships for those farmers as well.
Yeah, another question I had is, okay, for the fields that don't get planted, what happens to them then? For the duration of the year?
Well, you have to control the weeds, you have to go in, so they'll be out there still doing weed control and taking care of that ground, but they'll take the prevented planting provision of insurance with that. That's how they'll work with that, so.
Okay. Are there other alternatives to plant other than beans and corn? I know we're so dependent on beans and corn.
Right. As far as income, there'll be some wheat planted, but I find the interesting part, a lot of the farmers that I've talked to, and Scott, you've probably gotten the same thing, is they're going to take that opportunity to improve that ground. They're going to do some tiling, because usually they got crop on it all summer. Now, if they take prevented planting, they're going to go ahead and improve that ground in some way. A lot of them are going to put tile in, obviously. That's going to pay. So it's an opportunity, but it'll be a hardship going through. And as Steve said, we already had some stress going in because of prices, and so that's going to kind of change a little bit. But So, but we are seeing those kind of good things coming out of this too.
I know the later you plant, the lower the yields. I mean, do you have any projection on yields of the acreage that is planted?
Well, that's the problem is what kind of stand do we have, Brian? What, are you getting, what's the percent of stand or how's your stands looking? Because 500 acres of replant's quite a
Yeah,
bit.
I don't know, I would say stand-wise across the county, what I'd see is probably in that 70% range, give or take, but yeah, I think ours are thin pretty much all over, but we have beans, so they actually are a little more forgiving on that part of it, so if a farmer elects, or really you have to take that prevent plant, they're gonna, whichever commodity, they'd be looking at about $300, give or take on that, which of course the land cost, if you're renting the land, will take up a good chunk of that, and then they'd have to spray. It is enough to probably keep you afloat, but not to bore you with the details, but the big thing I think they're debating now, maybe over in DC, is whether they're gonna allow a spring price that was established in February versus a fall price, because it appears it might be higher like they alluded to today, so that was one thing they're gonna try to do to help out. But I got a text from one of the traders the other day, and it said 33 million acres of beans unplanted across the country as of June 12th or so, so that's pretty significant, and a few million of corn, so.
Yeah, I was curious too, you kind of touched on it, what legislative initiatives are underway, other than just a disaster area declaration? Is there anything else that?
That's pretty much it. No, that's, disaster management the disaster designation will dictate what happens. But I don't know of any other farm bill provisions or anything they're looking at now. They're still trying to debate the last farm bill, so they'll get to that. So, one other thing I want to touch on real quick too is, there was an article that came out in National Geographic, and I don't usually agree with them, but they talked about how all this fertilizer was put down and now there's no crops there, so it's going to go right into Lake Erie or Scioto, whichever, down to the Ohio River, which is basically untrue because like Jackie said, it's been so wet the last 12 months. I don't know that anything went on this fall, or very little. So there wasn't a lot of fertilizer out there. So I'm kind of anxious to see, because farmers really didn't put the fertilizer on, especially in northwestern Ohio. And then if we get an algae bloom or something, that tells us some other things are going on. So once again, we have opportunities to kind of look at this and say, what are the what ifs out there? So.
You mentioned market price. I guess I didn't think about, I guess a lot of farmers hedge, or the price determined in the spring. It's not the market price when you take it to market on your corn and soybeans, or?
Yeah, that, on the insurance side there, like beans are established at $9.54, and I can't even tell you what the corn is. I guess I didn't follow close enough, but, so that's a guaranteed price that you would figure, and once you're planted, you would figure that on your guaranteed
That's for
yield.
insurance.
Yes.
But you know it's going to be higher than that because of the.
I like the way you're thinking, Connie. I thought that before, and it hasn't worked out so good.
Supply and demand, I got a gut feeling. it's
But
gonna
you're
be higher
right.
as
I
well.
mean,
You would think.
pretty cut and dry more than some years. It looks like it's obviously going up, and they're just not, but there's always the trade and all those other things that could play into it. But yep, a lot of people would assume that we would probably have a higher harvest price. If you can even mud it in the way the insurance, and it's a nationwide, I think it's the same way, then you're locked in being able to have the harvest price. Even if you had a drought, you drowned it out or whatever, but you have to at least plant. So the people that are sitting there with prevent plant acres, because they couldn't plant, they're kind of locked into that on soybeans, $9.54. They don't have an opportunity where maybe it would go potentially higher, so. But it's better than nothing, but we didn't even have crop insurance until, I think we bought it in '08, and there's people you could buy, but they really have streamlined it. It is a pretty decent product, and it's fairly inexpensive. You don't want to take it, it's like
Right.
having it on your house. You're not going to do those things, but this is one of those years you're certainly glad to have something like that, because add up bunches of acres times that kind of money, it helps.
And Gary, just to address your question about the market, yes, I have talked to farmers and consulted with farmers who had, 20, 30% of their corn crop contracted early on, and some of those farmers have went and bought back those contracts because they didn't get it planted. And once again, you buy those contracts back at the price it is now, so they're losing money on those contracts when they buy them back. But they're not going to have the product, and as Brian said, we're hoping it goes up this fall, and so it may be worse off as we get farther and farther into the growing season. So yes, there is those considerations.
Is winter wheat not a good option in Ohio, assuming that things dry up and?
Yeah, winter wheat, having the same problems. We have, not a lot, but we do have a winter wheat crop here in Delaware County. A lot of them do it for straw. I was talking to Dawn there before we started, and, a lot of people that had wheat, the quality wasn't very good because of, Jackie mentioned, we've had rain basically all fall. So the quality wasn't, some people tore it up, some people kept it. But the people that have decent wheat, they're talking about probably 3 times the price for the straw that people can come and bale as they were back last year. I've talked to several people with that, they just want to keep it out there because there is that opportunity this year. So we do have that crop, hay crop, we got quite a bit of hay in Delaware County. Once again, quits raining, we can get it made. So we do have those other crops out there.
Coming back to the wheat real quick, a lot of us in this humid, wet environment, it's gonna cause disease and cause a head scab on the wheat, and then the wheat mills won't take the wheat. So it's very important that we got a fungicide applied, and a lot of us either had to have that aerial done or had it done in a very, very short window. And a lot of issues that we saw this year was that it has to have a half an hour to an hour worth of zero rain on it. So even if you had it aerial done, there's a chance that it could have just washed that fungicide away to protect that. So on our farm, we're hoping that we got enough time for it to dry on that wheat so that we don't have any head scab or
Yes.
disease issues.
Oh, my gosh,
That all goes to deterioration of the crop, so that's.
yes. Administrator Fromm.
I just had a quick question. Is there any farming practices like no-till or anything like that that can help ease the rain and so forth, or is it everybody's kind of in the same boat?
I tell you what, I'm gonna go back to this side over here, and I'm telling you, at least my opinion, and I think most are this drainage tile. And that doesn't keep it from raining, that doesn't keep the top 6 inches and all from being in there. It would be a little drier probably if you had conventional tillage, which really, across the board, people would probably prefer more on this side. No-till, I think, is when you go to meetings, because it has its advantages, but yeah, you would probably, if you chisel plow or the ground, it might absorb a little bit more, but like today, it's just so saturated, it would get you in a day sooner, and that day could make a difference, so you're kind of on the right thing. We need those drainage ditches. I say it over and over. It's just such a game changer. Not this year, but next year and the year after. And 100 years ago when the mains were put in down on Curve Road, and it just doesn't change. It's even in marginal years, it just makes a great. You've done quite well before even I know you guys. But I think when did that start? 20 years ago, when they really let you guys start handling the drainage ditches.
Would have been the first project.
Yep. The more proactive, even the better. I'd like to see them dipped out even sooner than they are, where they have to remove a foot or 2 of the silt that comes in there, because once that outlet's restricted, it's restricted, so.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see some of the most recent drainage projects, if there is a correlation
I can show you
benefit
one they just
between.
did this last fall. It made a difference. I know it. I mean, I do, but I don't have it all written down in terms of data, but the one you did out here in 42, that drained out like that yesterday. So.
What percent?
And Mike, too, other practices to cover crop have helped quite a bit for the people that had those. The problem was getting off in to kill it off before it got too tall, but if they got in there, killed it off, they were able to get in just a tad sooner than they could if they just had bare ground. So, yeah,
I was
Jeff.
going to say, Rob, what percent of the fields of the acreage in Delaware County is tiled?
Oh, what was you? Well, yeah, there's difference. Systematically tiled or tiled. We have both kinds.
There's a giant spectrum there.
Right.
Yeah.
Half, maybe.
Yeah, I would say systematically, right.
A modern systematic system with a good outlet.
Yeah,
maybe
that's-
half our acre.
Okay, that's what I was really after.
And Jeff, we got some tile back from the 30s and 40s out there in some of these fields, and they're
Functional.
tiled, but they're not really tiled correctly. So, but yeah, I'm with Brian. It's just when you look at an economic benefit to a farm, tile is always right there at the top. Just especially now, in this year.
You better explain systematic is the spacing.
Oh,
right on each
yeah.
one.
Well, say, yeah, I would say I do, but.
Systematic means the tile's about 40 feet apart.
Right,
Yeah,
and
just-
it depends on, the soil type and what crops you're growing. I work with some specialty crop growers, they like it down to 10 to 15 spaces, just according to what they're growing. So, but on a crop field, we're looking at 30 to 40 inch spacings on there with the main down the side, bring it in and take it out.
Boy, this has been, any other
very
questions?
interesting.
Yeah, very
Well,
informative.
I really appreciate your guys' interest in it. Delaware County, you guys have all worked well with the farmers, and we appreciate the support. And we really do appreciate your concern, and hopefully things, Mother Nature will change it around. But yeah, if you talk to anybody at state level,
Sure.
I think the
That's a
disaster
good- yes.
designation would help quite
Yes.
a bit.
We had a drought, what, 6, 7 years ago?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
So you just stay along.
Yeah.
yeah. So-
Thank you so much. It's also great to hear the importance of the work that Soil and Water is doing.
And I would go even farther than that, the importance of the work that the whole community is working together. A lot of it, like Brian said, we talk about, or Steve, that we talk about, relationships. I just
Yes.
really appreciate the ag community working together along with the elected
Well,
officials.
the Extension Office, I mean, you guys do great stuff to help
Yes,
help the
yes.
ag
I
community.
appreciate the support.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much,
Yep.
everybody, for coming in.
Thank you.
Very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we can proceed.
Resolution number 19-571, in the matter of approving purchase orders, setting out certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 0614 and memo transfers in batch number 0614.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-571. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-572, in the matter of setting date, time, and place for the final hearing by the Commissioners for the Homestead at Scioto Reserve, Section 1 Drainage Maintenance Improvement Petition Project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-572. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 19-573, in the matter of accepting donations made to the Department of Job and Family Services.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bob Anderson, Director of Job and Family Services. We were fortunate enough to receive 46 day passes from the Columbus Zoo, and with a value of $1,011 that we can share with our foster families. We use those also with our recognition of our foster parents, and what we did is each family received enough passes for themselves, the parents, the foster placements, and their biological children to spend a day at the Columbus Zoo.
Oh, that's great. Do they do this usually, or is this a new thing?
This was a new thing. Commissioner Merrill was very instrumental in helping us.
Oh,
And he
Merrill.
made the initial contact. The zoo was very favorable to support us. And that's something that, I'm not sure what was done in years past, but if we're going to show recognition and the appreciation, and also make this feel like a home environment, this is
Yes.
very much appreciated.
Oh, that's great.
We say it all the time, the organizations in this county who really go the extra mile to make this a better county. And we talk about the foster parents and the role they play. And for Columbus Zoo to step up, I've made a phone call, but Tom is the one that said yes. And we're lucky to have people in this county that are willing to do that.
Yes, I agree.
Well, thank you for stepping up, making that phone call.
very nice.
That's great. Boy, the zoo is wonderful. They'll love that. Okay.
Vote on motion 19-573. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 19-574, in the matter of approving a transfer of appropriations for adult court services.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Kay Baglione from Adult Court Services. I'm the office manager. We're asking for a transfer of appropriations from compensation to general supplies and services in re-evaluating the amounts that we're spending for the year. Discovered that we would have to send money back to the state if we didn't have reappropriations. And so I asked the state if we could reappropriate money in the grant, and they have approved it, and this is the request.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 19-574. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank you, Kay.
Resolution number 19-575, in the matter of approving an agreement between Pogemeyer Design Group and the Delaware County Commissioners for analysis of impediments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Jenna Gehring, Economic Development Coordinator. This is for the required analysis of impediments to fair housing that we are doing in partnership with the City of Delaware, and I recommend your approval.
What timeline are you expecting on this, Jenna?
This will be a pretty quick turnaround, July.
Oh,
So,
okay.
because that's when it's due to the state as well.
Okay.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-575, Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Resolution number 19-576, in the matter of authorizing the sale of personal property not needed for county use.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Morning, Commissioners. Tiffany Mag, Director of Environmental Services. These are UV modules that were previously installed at our OECC treatment plant. They were taken out of service in 2015, and they're no longer needed for our use. So we plan to sell the units versus trying to dispose of them because it costs us about $5,000 to dispose of these units.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-576, Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Resolution number 19-577, in the matter of approving an assignment of subdividers agreement for the cottages at Hyatt's.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
This is a condo development on Hyatt's Road across from Scioto Chase Boulevard. And the purpose of this subdividers agreement is to assign the agreement over to Cottages at Hyatt's LLC. It was previously held by Schottensteins, and Schottensteins sold the, I guess, basically renamed the subdivision to Cottages at Hyatt's. So in order for us to get the bond, we have to get it from the proper entity, which is now Cottages at Hyatt's LLC.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-577, Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Resolution number 19-578, in the matter of approving the bid dockets and setting the bid date for the project known as the CDBG PY 2018 Activity 2 Berlin Township ADA Sidewalk Improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. We are assisting Berlin Township with a CDBG assisted replacement and modification of curbs and sidewalks. The estimated cost for this project is about $151,000. The work would be done between July and November of this year. And basically go out to bid and see what type of submittals we'll get.
Where is the work being done, Rob?
I can get you more information on the specific locations. I don't have that handy, but I know there's several different locations.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 19-578, Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Resolution number 19-579, in the matter of approving right-of-way work permit summary sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
We had 6 utility permit applications. These are all routine utility installs, and we're recommending your approval.
Vote.
Vote on motion 19-579, Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Resolution number 19-580, in the matter of approving the plats of subdivision for Scioto Ridge Crossing, Section 4, and Lynetta subdivision, lot number 1232, division number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Scioto Ridge Crossing involves about 35 single-family lots being developed by MI Homes, and the Lynetta subdivision is just a re-subdivision of one individual lot into 2 lots, and we're recommending your approval of these plats.
Vote.
Vote on motion 19-580, Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
That brings us to administrator reports.
Morning, Commissioners. I think today I was going to ask Tiffany to come up to the podium. We have some recognition of one of our staff members. Just to kind of set things up a little bit, Ohio Water Environment Association is the premier wastewater organization in the state of Ohio. There's over 2,000 utilities and members representing. It's part of WEF, which is a 50,000 member national organization. So it's a very prestigious group of water quality professionals. So
Thanks, Mike. So we're here today to recognize Kelly Thiel from our office. Kelly's sitting up here in the front row. Kelly received an award at the Southeast section level just this past month, and she received the Collection System Award, was the name of the award that she received. I'm going to read a little bit from the nomination and also a little bit about the award. The award is presented to an individual for their contributions to the state-of-the-art wastewater collection. And for Kelly's nomination, just a quick excerpt of what was written about Kelly. Kelly has provided significant contributions to ensuring the installation of state-of-the-art wastewater collection as she actively manages all of Delaware County's residential development projects, as well as several major capital projects. As one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Ohio, Kelly oversees approximately 30 development projects per year by performing plan reviews and approvals for all design projects. She is also managing several large capital projects, including the design of an 11 million gallon per day relief dry pit submersible pump station to prevent future SSOs in water and basements near the Alum Creek treatment plant. Kelly has also aided in developing construction and material standards as well as rules and regulations for the county, and focuses on ensuring that each plan set meets the requirements that the district has in place. So you can tell from that nomination excerpt that Kelly, she has such a huge impact on our office. Managing all of our development projects is a really big undertaking. As you know, there's so much going on. And she is constantly coordinating with developers and working with our different consultants, leading some of our more major capital projects in-house. And we really appreciate all of her efforts. As I mentioned in the last session when we talked a little bit about your Commissioner's Award, Kelly is the type of person that she steps up for any task that we have in the office. I mean, I think she's a little bit of a busybody, likes to keep busy, doesn't want to ever be sitting there not busy. So anything that comes up, she's always raising her hand and taking on more, it's so nice to have people like that in our office and such a big help. I don't know, Mike, if you want to speak a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, Kelly does a lot of really great things for the sewer district, but I think the one thing, if I could really hone in on one, is when she works with the developers, she works at the same level of passion and urgency that they're working on in their development. And I think that's something we've always wanted to implement here. And, she, like I said, she works on the projects almost like they're her development projects. And I think that's been a key to, successfully working with the development community.
Yes, I don't know if you guys have any comments or questions or.
How long, Kelly, how long have you been with the county?
A little over 4 years.
4 years? When I hear collection award, I think about collecting money. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing. And we're lucky to have you. I hear great things all the time. And you did a great summary of all that you're involved in. I did, if I was you, I'd take exception when she called you a busybody. And to me, that has to do with being a gossiper. I don't think that's what she meant at all.
No, not at all.
She meant you get involved. And we understood that, but I had to make a little.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And as far as the Collection System Award, this award is basically all about making sure that the infrastructure that goes in the ground is going to be around for the next 50 to 100 years, that it's installed the right way, and it really does embody the work that Kelly does on a daily basis. And I was just so excited that she was able to get this award this year.
And once it goes in the ground, it's hidden, so if there's mistakes made, they're harder to deal with. So my kudos for the job you do. Thank you.
Yeah, when we got, when Commissioner Lewis and I were at the, what's the organization name again?
Yeah, the Ohio Water Environment Authority.
Yeah, OWEA.
Yep.
We got the Commissioner's Award. It was a real eye-opener for us. Because there were so many people in that room. There had to be 50 people easily.
Yeah, I think we were just over 100 that day.
Yeah.
One of our largest meetings of the year.
The room was crowded and busy and so on. This is a big organization, and I think it's about a quarter of the state that are represented in that
Yeah, we
room.
actually have our annual conferences next week, so a handful of our employees will be up in Sawmill Creek, I think we are. So there will be probably 500 or 600 people there, representing the entire state and getting together and, being able to network with different people in different municipalities and hear about what they do and, what they like and dislike, and being able to really collaborate in that manner is really great.
Talking wastewater. It's
Talking
amazing.
wastewater, that's right.
It was very,
was, yeah.
it was impressive that there were that many people there. It was a
Very much
very
so.
active organization, and this was just 1/4 of the state, and
Yes.
so again, for Kelly to get that award out of all those counties and other local systems, I mean, that's really something, so very impressive.
It really
Congratulations, and
is.
keep up the good work.
And I have great respect and appreciation for what you do, Kelly, because I can remember a few years ago, the commissioners had to get involved in development, and we are not engineers.
Yeah, that's not our
And
scope.
therefore, it was quite a challenge, and I remember when you came aboard too, and you came from the Ohio EPA, and very highly recommended there, and I remember, it's like, yes, and thank you. So thank you so much for the great work that you do for us.
I have two more things. You said Sawmill is where the event is? I have played golf at Sawmill, so I know you'll be interested in knowing that. You played golf there.
okay.
But number two, does Kelly have anything she wants to say?
Kelly, please come on up.
I would just like to say that the award and recognition is awesome, but it couldn't have happened without the support of the office. I think we work in a fabulously supportive environment where you're encouraged to pursue your ideas and your interests, and you're given the responsibility and the resources to grow professionally. So, yeah, and my coworkers are smart and professional, and they make me look good. So that's part of the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
Yes, and you have several coworkers from Regional Sewer are here too.
You want to introduce him?
Yes. Oh, would you like to introduce them? Yes.
Oh, yeah, Nate and Eric, and our new intern from Ohio State, Julie, and Kathleen, who's so helpful at the front desk and making sure that everything gets to where it needs to go, and Julie, who, yeah, all the new things that we've been able to do with the modeling and, knowing what's going where in our collection system is just really invaluable with Julie's help now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now on to commissioner reports. Oh, and I think you're first, Commissioner.
I'm first today?
Merrill, you are.
I have a couple of things. I went to Zufari Saturday night before the rains hit.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
what a turnout. I don't know if one of you made it or not, but
I have, and I didn't make this one. I've
yeah,
been
but
there.
it was a crowd. And, the zoo is obviously a big attraction for our county, although it's a Columbus Zoo, but it is in our county. And indirectly, we do benefit in many ways, and in many ways we support the zoo, but it's a mutual relationship. I mentioned Tom Staff's help with the foster parents earlier. Finance Authority, Jeff and I had the opportunity to attend an event Thursday evening to acknowledge the work that Olentangy has done economic development in our county, and I thought that went really well. And it also is an example of our Finance Authority and progress they have made over the last, I've been commissioner for 7 years, and the word I use is they're very passionate, and I think that describes what their efforts are and their desire to really help move this county forward. And that's good. That's good. And I have one last thing. You may have heard Bob Horrock is leaving Source Point, and his replacement has been identified, and that's Farah Wall, I think I'm mispronouncing your name, W-A-U-G-H, and she is, Wall. And I don't know her real well, but 24-year employee, and she's, I'm sure, excited about getting the job. I spoke to Bob, but I have not spoken to Farah to congratulate her yet. And I know they did a national search, and when you do a national search, you end up staying home. It says something about the person promoting, and I'm certain Farah will do a great job.
Yes, absolutely. Commissioner Benton.
Yeah, gosh, going second, Commissioner Merrill took all my topics.
Well, now you might say that.
No, a farewell was announced, and congratulations to her. I'm sure she'll do a great job. She's been there a long time.
24 years.
24 years.
And very well known in the community, very well respected in the community. But I would like to thank Bob Horrocks, who obviously is retiring later on this year, for all his leadership. 27 years, I think Bob's been there. And when you think of the work he's done, I mean, he's truly been a transformative leader in that organization, because that organization was very new, very small, and look at it now. I mean, there's thousands of members and programs and so on. I mean, so it's very, very active and a real jewel for our community. So thanks to Bob, and I'm sure there'll be celebrations later on to thank Bob and celebrate his years of service. And just kind of emphasize again, the Finance Authority, you know, they presented Olentangy School District with an award, AAA award, $50,000 check in recognition of all the work that they've done, you know, promoting economic development in Delaware County, and they've been a huge, very important partner, along with the townships, the cities, the counties, sewer, water, other utilities. I mean, there's so many people in the private sector, obviously, there's so many people involved in making economic development successful. And Bob Lamb, our team, you know, has been intimately involved in all those things. So again, very, very nice award. School board, I think, really appreciated it. I think they understand just how important the long-range vision of attracting the right businesses and the right employment base in Delaware County is. So they've been very supportive of our efforts, and we really appreciate that.
I think they understand the quality jobs creation in our county, the
Yes.
impact that is to the schools.
Yes, yep. And we're trying to balance the commercial and residential tax base to bring in more commercial to hopefully reduce the burden on the residential taxpayers. So that's it. The U.S. Open was yesterday, and that was great. Pebble Beach looked outstanding, and congratulations to Gary Woodland for winning.
Great first name, I like that.
I better take control of this conversation. Okay. We have a housing conversation meeting this Wednesday at 1:30 on affordable housing in Delaware County. As I mentioned before, it's a cross-section of so many different groups within the county. Another example, again, of the volunteerism and people reaching out to help the county and people as a whole. And do we have need?
Yes,
we do have need for executive session.
Resolution number 19-581, in the matter of adjourning into executive session for consideration of employment and compensation of a public employer or public official to consider the purchase of property for public purposes and for collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-581. Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye. We're now recessed into executive session. I think so. Yeah.
Resolution number 19-582, in the matter of adjourning out of executive session.
So moved.
Second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 19-582. Mr. Merrill is absent. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We are now